Hi, this is going to be a very long video, assuming I'm able to get it out. I just really wanted to give a more detailed description of my testimony because I feel like some out there have gotten the gist of my story and I just think it's only fair to share the truth because other people know, and and of course, it's not about me. I just think my experiences would change people's lives, increase their faith, discern them, touch their hearts, and strengthen people. I really think sharing my testimony would only better people. And of course, if you go on my YouTube channel, if you see who I am, and all this stuff, I'm no one special. I'm no different than anybody else. I don't have the answers. There's nothing miraculous about me. So I hope with all that said, I could put all that aside. It is difficult because one of the trials I think the Lord puts me through is to isolate me, and I have a lot of trauma and no closure over any of my stories or experiences, and the loneliness and all the attention I get through my experiences. It's very easy to get corrupted in that because I'm so isolated and I don't have anyone in my life who even knows anything about me anymore. So, I don't know, if you can imagine, that's just something I wrestle with, and it's really something I try to avoid. So I don't know, I kind of took it up with the Lord. It's like, well, as I know some people get the gist of my story, and I think I really just wanted to share the glory of God to others, And so I took it up with the Lord, and I think He gave the okay. I think He says it's okay, and I'll try to be as smart about it as I can. Lord, please guide me, because this is not easy thing to do. Assuming I'm even able to get this stuff out. I do have 2 cameras running as a backup. So I'll see. I don't know. But I will try not to make this too long. My story is really long and complicated. So, okay. Generally, if anyone remembers my testimony, I was a musician, never went anywhere in the world, never fit in. I was adopted as a child, not really knowing where it came from. I knew my mother had problems with drugs and so forth, and homeless in Manhattan. I was born in Manhattan. So that's a little bit of background. I was adopted as a very young baby, into a family here on Long Island. I was born addicted to drugs, and I had to be detoxed for 6 months. Right after I was born, so I didn't have any parental love, or I was in a hospital for 6 months, for the first 6 months of my life, being detoxed, and that has had dramatic effect on my life. Well, in a way that I have only begun to realize within these years, while walking with the Lord. So I was born addicted to like crack cocaine, I think. So, it caused a lot of problems, and with my background, I had a lot of issues growing up, a lot of self-esteem issues, and the way my life unfolded and stuff, I had a lot of sexual issues and just weird stuff. So anyway, I fell into the black hole of pornography, and and that got me in trouble. So, and then I found myself in the situation. If anyone remembers my testimony, um, I'm a good person. I'm a kind-hearted person. Um, in the I don't like in the internet porn thing, the bad is mixed with the good, and you just don't realize how you know much of a tar pit you end up winding yourself in. But anyway, if anyone remembers my testimony around 2010, I think 2011, I contacted this female musician who is pretty famous. I'm not going to say her name. And by the way, it's all good. We're friends now, and everything's totally cool. She's like family. It's great. It's not. There's no bad blood there at all. But anyway, this interaction got me in trouble. I didn't know how the world worked. Well, I had the mafia come after me. I found myself under surveillance by the mafia, and I was terrified. And as I told, I was able to get that run to the FBI, and I had to go through all that whole fiasco without anybody really knowing, because everything is covert, and my life was ruined. I lost my job, and I got the FBI got suspicious of me because of my past and because of my love for music, and I did some stupid things that I was just very vulnerable, and I don't know. But I in this fiasco, I had the mafia after me. The FBI was suspicious of me. I had to quit my job, so I just ended up to the point where I was just sucking up unemployment, drinking and smoking nonstop, and smoking pot, and just wasting away watching TV, just waiting for time to go by because things were just so bad. I was so oppressed. Everything was under suspicion. Even the clothes I wore was under suspicion, and it just got really bad. And so at that point, if anyone remembers my testimony, I said, well, the Lord intervened in my life and put a monkey wrench on the situation. Well, before that happened, my first real supernatural experience, or what started my story, that put a whammy on this whole mafia FBI fiasco. I had a supernatural experience on December 21st, 2012. I still don't have all the answers to what that was, but it was messages to the television, electronic messages to the television, and so forth. 4 days later, and that all of a sudden made, if things weren't bad enough, it just, for a minute I felt free, because during that week, around the 21st, I just felt the Lord. I felt the Lord's presence. I don't think He was responsible for what happened on the 21st. I don't have the answers, but I'll get it. Stuff gets complicated. But I did feel God's presence around that time. And I was so just out of it, man. Like, I was just not a well person, okay? And, well, I don't know. After this experience that happened on the 21st, well, that put a whammy on the whole situation, with the mafia already involved, and, they have me under surveillance. The mafia has me under surveillance, so they already knew everything that was going on, even though no one had answers. So I suddenly became like, for me, I just felt like freedom when that happened, because I felt some type of divine presence, and I'm like, oh, thank God, like I'm free, I'm free. And I was not very nice about it. I was cracking jokes, scoffing at the FBI and everybody, like, leave me the F alone. Like, I just wanted to be left alone. And, like, I'm free, leave me alone. Like, hallelujah. And, but anyway, Christmas rolled around 4 days later. And, I was upset on Christmas night because, everyone's enjoying their holiday. And I had all this pressure built up from all this trauma from what I've been through. Like my life was, could have been taken at any moment over these years. That's how I was living, and, with this whole mafia and FBI fiasco. And then I get this, everyone, December 21st, 2012 was the big day. And I had this experience then, like, oh my God, I thought like I'm the reason the Mayan calendar and and all this pressure. And I just wanted to be free. I just wanted to be normal. I just needed to scream, I guess. And then Christmas rolled around and things just boiled. I just, I had enough. Christmas night, I was just really upset. So, I was sick of being under surveillance. Like just listening to music, if there was a song that I listened to, that meant something. This means something. That means something. And I couldn't be fucking anybody. Pardon my language. I couldn't be myself. So I just wanted to piss everybody off. That's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to annoy people. I just wanted to be really, because I grew up in a punk rock kind of rock and roll background, So, that's the kind of way of the world that I grew up around. That's my background. So I tried to find some of the worst annoying music I could find, and I decided to just crank it on Christmas night. And the CD, I was listening to CDs back then. The CD I chose was, this band called Flipper, and it was a compilation of theirs called Sex Bomb Baby. And it's just noise. It's just like out of tune guitars, people who could hardly play their instruments, and just who were mostly drunk, and just playing. And I grew up on, that's the kind of music I grew up on in high school, that whole scene. And it was very liberating at the time. So I cranked this CD, and that was like not even their good CD. This was the CD that I never listened to with it. I never listened to of theirs because I thought it was generally pretty bad. So I just cranked the volume, and I cranked that up, and well, the first song was playing, and all of a sudden, the supernatural started happening. Pretty much, long story short, God descended and took over what was playing on that CD. And what came out of that radio was not what was on that CD. All of a sudden, the music started reversing. And all of a sudden, just the supernatural took over. Like the Lord kind of took the music that was on the CD and did his own thing through it, to what he wanted to say. Okay, so what I'm saying is, I had my little experience on December 21st, 2012, and then I had a major divine from God intervention on Christmas in 2012. On Christmas night. And it lasted like 2 hours. Like 45, it was 2 CDs, 45 minutes each. From 9 o'clock to about 11 o'clock. This happened. At night. So the first, and when this first happened, I'm on, listening to this Flipper CD, Sex Bomb Baby. That's the name of the album. I'm gonna link links in the description box. For anyone who has access to this, if anyone even hears this, and you can check out the songs. But I'm not going to play them. I don't think the Lord would appreciate that, but though I think it is kind of important. But there's a song by Flipper which is called Ever. Okay, now there's the song that's on this particular CD is not the main version there. And if you listen to the lyrics of that song, it's clearly about persecution, being gang stalked, and not being able to take it and stuff like that. So anyway, the first lyrics to those lines were "Ever live a life that's real." So as the supernatural took over this CD playing, the music was reversing, and it was just pretty much a lot of screaming that wasn't on the CD, bouts of destructive rage, and just really scary. And then God's voice kind of took over in the voice of the singer, but it was more powerful, and it was all out of in between the music reversing and screaming and the just destructive rage. So much rage, musical rage. His message was coming across, and those lyrics came across like "Ever live a life that's real," and then eventually, and in between the noise and the screaming and the music reversing and all that stuff, he just took examples of specific songs that were on that CD. The next was from the song called "Sacrifice," and he just screamed 3 times, "A demand is a sacrifice." It was just screaming, "A demand is a sacrifice. A demand is a sacrifice. A demand is a sacrifice." Screaming. And now there's a song of theirs called "Sacrifice." And that was an example of that. And then there was another, they have another song on that CD called "Ha Ha Ha." And the Lord just spoke really nasty, really condescending and sarcastic, really angry, just like we all live in suburbia, saying "Ha Ha 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 Ho 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 Ho." It was scary, man. Okay? And it just went on. It was scary. And then finally, there's a song on that CD called "Brainwash," and it, you can look up these songs. I'll try to link them in the link below if people are curious. But anyway, the Lord kind of emulated himself through the song and just did, but it wasn't what was on the CD. He just kept repeating, "Never mind, you won't understand anyway. Never mind, you won't understand anyway." And he was so angry that the first word would interrupt the last word. And it just repeated itself for like a minute. Okay, like really scary. It just went, "Never mind, you won't understand anyway. Never mind, you won't understand anyway. Never mind, you won't understand anyway." And it just went for like a minute. And then it just said, "Tape done." And the CD ended. Okay. Now I'm going to explain this, how this kind of makes sense, like what happened, because I've had years to understand this. The name of the band is called Flipper, and what God did was, well, his message is flipped around because God spoke in past, present, and future all at the same time. So not only was he kind of rebuking the mafia and the FBI in my defense, yet at least the FBI didn't deserve that much of a rebuke. He was also referring to things that were going to happen in the future that nobody knew yet. Okay? So God covered it all in one foul swoop, past, present, future, all one foul swoop, and covered every perspective that could every scenario that could possibly unfold, all in one foul swoop. And the words were flipped around because not only was these things happening to me and will happen to me in my future, we learn, if we're familiar with these times, these things are going to happen to the heathen. You reap what you sow. So God covered it all in one foul swoop, if you can understand. And, I don't want to get into this, like this stuff is scriptural, but, the scriptures can be misleading, okay? The way they're worded, this holier than thou language, Son of God, Messiah stuff, it's not, I cover this stuff on my YouTube. I'm researching this, and I don't have all the answers, but it's not what it seems. It's not, it can be very misleading. But that's just kind of a false theology we here on earth have. But I'm not going to get there. I'm not going to go there. So anyway, the divine intervention didn't stop there. Anybody would just kind of freak out and not do anything after that. But me, no, I just put on another CD. That's what I did after that. And I was kind of like talking like, oh, that was fucked up. Pardon my language. Like, I was just not a well person. I was so lonely and under so much stress, and I just went insane I really was mentally ill from the past year of what I was going through. And what I've went through over the past couple years is just all... So I just put on another CD. Like, that's what I did. I put on another CD at random. I randomly put on another CD after that happened. And I put on the Sonic Youth album, Rather Ripped. And the Lord spoke through that album as well. The first song, called Rena, was untouched supernaturally. It played as normal. And then after that song played, the same thing kind of happened. Like, God kind of spoke through the songs but did his own thing, and he did his thing for 45 minutes, and he had a lot to say. And but first, I just want to say, guys, I just want to say that I've had years to think this stuff over and whatever. God didn't provide any answers, so there are no answers. But I think to show God's goodness, and even God showing his rebuke to the heathen in the Flipper CD, even in all his rage and anger, that is his goodness, because he does not like to destroy. And so anyway, on the Sonic Youth Rather Rip CD, they were like my favorite band growing up. God was really good to me. Okay, he did this stuff through my favorite bands, and nobody can measure up can ever live up to the gratitude I owe. But like I said, the first song, Rena, was untouched, and I think that was out of God's goodness and kindness, not to freak everybody out too much. But if you notice, that song had complete significance. So that song, if you listen to it, note for note, word for word, is the word of God. Is the word that that's something God had to say. Word for word, note for note. It was not supernaturally touched. And if you study this stuff, you can come throughout all the assumptions you want, but there aren't any answers. Every possibility could be is covered. That's what I learned too. What God spoke through past, present, and future, and every possibility, whether I didn't repent and I just chose the evil path, or whether, so, and it was all, God covered it all. Every possibility, past, present, and future, all in one foul swoop. He covered it all. There aren't any answers in what happened that night, in the words that God said. There aren't any answers. He just needed, I guess, he's just doing his thing. I don't know what this all means, and nobody really knows what this all means, despite what the texts say or whatever. I just think he just wanted to make his presence known, and he spoke and he revealed himself in a, because the rest of the album, if you notice, song titles like "Do You Believe in Rapture," "Lights Out," stuff like that, you can all make the connection that this stuff is real. There's a lot of things, like there's so much to say what God did, so much to say, but what God spoke was in the spirit. He rebuked me. It was complete fear and rebuke, and scary stuff, and of course it was for my own good, because let me tell you, you're going to be obedient for the rest of your existence after something like that. And it was scary. It was terrifying and sweet at the same time, but that's not the point. I just want to say, like, it's kind of ironic, the miracle God did when you read the lyrics to that album, because God did not use the lyrics. Like, yes, the first song was the word of God, but the rest of the album was not. But if you just read the lyrics plainly, it's like, oh my God, this album would be about me if I was an evil person, or if I was, because that's kind of like, I was just a very dark, lost soul, I just needed love. And, whatever. So there's just a lot of stuff going on, there, and I don't know. So if people do start looking into this and make assumptions, it's just so much to cover, so much to talk about. I've already been through it all the past couple years, persecution, and so that's kind of like my testimony. And well, that didn't stop, because after this happened, I started getting alien contact after this. And I only learned recently, if you follow my YouTube, I only learned recently that, I don't know, I don't really want to get into this stuff, but, because this is just even more complicated. But I just wanted to say that I just want to focus on the divine interventions that I experienced in my life. And my persecution gradually has escalated since Christmas of 2012, and now has gotten to the point where I live here in Long Island is completely desolate from town to town. Every car on the road, every single quote unquote public car is really the heathen, pretending to be like everything is normal on their own above the law murderous campaign. So it's really bad. They have the place locked down, and they're all above the law, and they've committed a lot of senseless murders, and that's only the stuff that has affected my life that I know they're guilty of. And we all know they do child sacrifice like goodness knows every day, and whatever. I don't want to give them the spotlight, but things are really, really bad. Okay? It's not about we want to take you out. It's about you're just going to keep suffering and not die so we can just get off on it. And that's how it is. There is no killing. There is just keep suffering. We're going to keep you alive, and that's what they're going to do. That's if they had it their way. If the Lord didn't have his hand on the situation, that's the deal. That's how it is. It's really bad. It's, abomination is not even the word. But I don't want to give them the spotlight. So that naturally turned my life around. I used to be a chain smoker. I threw my cigarettes away with good reason. I don't want to get into it. But I haven't had a cigarette since that night, and it took me a little while to stop drinking after that, but so on, obviously, and I just did nothing but I ran towards the light. That's what happened after that experience. And it took me probably 6 months for me to stop sucking my thumb spiritually, so to speak. Like that just, it terrified me so much. I was like this little child for a very long time. Maybe about a year, no, maybe about a year, 6 months I maybe played an instrument again. Maybe about a year, it took about a year and a half to stop sucking my thumb after that experience. But in 2013, I actually experienced 2 more divine interventions, which were not nearly as what happened on Christmas. I experienced a divine intervention on September 6th, 2013. I don't have all the answers to what this means, but those numbers or the date is significant. I know when you do the research, I think that might be the date of creation according to the Mayan culture. But anyway, I was at that time, I was being persecuted by the CIA. I graduated to the CIA after the Christmas thing. I was already gone in the psych ward again and kind of held captive by the CIA, and they were, it was like, all right, we're all here now, and everybody was in this, all the patients, doctors, it was all sham, everybody was in the CIA, and they were there to tell me that, okay, well, there's aliens here now to see you, and whatever. I'm not even gonna get into this stuff, but nobody knew what was going on, okay? Nobody knew what was going on, but I was just kind of kicked around the whole time. And, and these people who once hurt me in the past have now repented, and I know are fighting very, very hard and doing more than I know to help my situation. So, there's no broad stroke here. But anyway, on what happened on September 6th, 2013, I was listening to all my library music on shuffle. I was being gang stalked. I noticed like the FBI and the CIA are trained in the gang stalking tactics, even though they're not even aware that they're doing satanic rituals and satanic tactics. That's how they're naturally trained. If we can't get this guy, if we can't arrest him, well, you just gang stalk him to death or whatever, harass him. The worst thing you could possibly do to somebody when you have them under surveillance, just try to break them psychologically. And the break-ins in my home, I think this was significant. This day, I noticed they went in my home and moved stuff around, and that really screws with you psychologically. It hurts you. And I got really angry, and you're not sure if it happened or if it didn't, and I got really angry and upset, and I punched a hole in my wall. And I went to sleep listening to music, and a couple hours later, I woke up, and all of a sudden the music, there was an introduction. I had like 100 gigs of music, okay, and I put on shuffle of all different type of genres. So there was a folk concert, an introduction to a folk concert that went on, and it just said, I don't remember, because after these divine interventions, I'll never listen to those tracks again or whatever. So I deleted it from my library after I knew God had his hand on something like that. So I can't recall it. But in the introduction, it was an introduction to a folk concert, and it just said, it was like maybe 30 seconds long. It said, there's something wrong going on in our society today with worship and with idols, etc. And all of a sudden, the music changed, and I noticed it got my attention because it was supernatural. It was like, it wasn't natural, and I felt like I heard a piano playing, but it was like swirling, like a swirling up and down staircase. It was like interdimensional, and I think, and that played for about like 30 seconds a minute, and I think that was just God saying, yeah, it's me. And then the Lord spoke in a voice. It just said, the problem is everybody wants to be their own damn teacher. And then it stopped. And that was the divine intervention. Maybe lasted 5 minutes, not even. I also first want to say the divine intervention on Christmas, God spoke in a male and female voice. There's Sonic Youth has a male and female singers. So he was genderless. I think that represents the male and female energies eventually coming together. But but on September 6th of 2013, he just said it was just really quick, really angry. There's something, and I think this represented the end of the era or something like that. I don't know, but he just said, there's something wrong with idols and worship these days. And the Lord spoke then and said, the problem is everybody wants to be their own damn teacher. And that was it. And then I experienced a third divine intervention. Only a month or two later, I was listening to a college radio, maybe the Hofstra radio station. It was like 4 a.m, and all of a sudden this song played that took my attention. It was like Not Human. It was two things playing at the same time, completely different time signatures. It was like a really, I'm a fan of grunge music, or I used to be like a fan of grunge music. I like weird underground music like that. But it was like a really mean sounding guitar, I guess like Sonic Youth-ish, but better than anything they could do, and that's saying a lot. It just didn't make sense. It didn't have any earthly means, but it was just very distorted, and I don't know, with no real structure. But then the guitar riff of the Nirvana song "Come As You Are" was playing in the background. Just that main guitar riff, da 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 da, from this album, was playing in the background of that, and that's it. The music was just very angry with the "Come As You Are" guitar part playing in the background. It was just two guitar parts, and I think, and that's it. And it played for like 5 minutes. It was like a song. And then after it finished, nothing was said. And after it finished, the DJ comes on like nothing happened. Like, I'm sorry, if you play a song like that, you're going to say something. He's just like, yeah, well, that's our show, guys. And didn't say, it was as if it never happened. It was as if that was never on the radio. It was just some kind of quantum thing going on. So those were the those are the 3 divine interventions I experienced. That was in November of 2013. And so that's what I really wanted to share. I don't know what all this stuff means, and I really don't. Anyone knows what God has planned, but I don't know. I just wanted to share. Yeah, I don't know. And my persecution has escalated through my walk with the Lord. I found out I have a daughter. My ex-girlfriend and I, when we were young and naive and didn't know better, nobody would have supported us. We were in our early 20s. We had an abortion. And, because I grew up in that liberal mindset in the system of the world, I was never really God conscious growing up. But all of a sudden, I found out through, in the most horrible way possible, through my persecutors that, oh, I have a daughter, she's alive. So I haven't met her. I did see her once through surveillance, or, they just plant people in your line of sight just to see how you react or whatever. And so I did get to see her once. But, the Lord has all this under control. I'll see her one day. But, and she's like 15, 16 now. So, that's part of my story. This is so much pain and stuff like that. So, I don't know. I just wanted to share that, guys. I think that's enough. We're on 40 minutes already. There are people who do know this testimony. I do have a circle of brethren out there who are aware of my testimony. They're mostly featured on my home YouTube page. Check them out. Subscribe to them. Maybe you know some of them even. It doesn't make any of them special. This stuff definitely doesn't make me special. I'm not special. It's not about me, guys. It's not about me. It's all about God, and I really see that from all my understanding, the way I see these prophecies unfolding. I mean, it sounds like there's glory to maybe an individual, but if you really see how they're unfolding and the fact of the matter, it's just something the Lord did, and it's just an involuntary situation that's being talked about that person might be in. and it has nothing to do with them. Nobody can boast. I can't boast. I'm not special because I'm going through this great trial and tribulation. The Lord rebuked me, scared the bejesus out of me, and anybody would be as obedient, I'm sure. Okay. If God speaks to you and rebukes you, it's scary. Just terrifying. Terrifying. And it was kind and sweet all at the same time. All right. I don't know. And I also want to say that I also learned that through my past, I always thought I knew who my biological father was, but apparently I don't have an earthly biological father. And I know, the way the Lord has led me and my research and the stuff the Lord has put into my life goes into some very controversial information, but I did find out that I believe I don't have all the answers. I recently just believe this. This recently came to my understanding that my biological father was likely of extraterrestrial descent. And it's from my understanding that was also Emmanuel's, the man who we call Jesus Christ. That was also his reality too. I don't want to get into this, and I know people might freak out and get offended, but from all my understanding, there's no such thing as a son of the Almighty creation. It's just a misconception. And I know I'm opening up a can of worms that I don't want to open. I don't have all the answers to this, but I cover this stuff on my YouTube channel. I talk about my research and stuff and all that stuff. But there are falsifications in our Bible and our main theologies, but it's up to God to reveal these things to people, not for me. And I don't have all the answers anyway. But all right, guys. So that's all I wanted to share. Thank you for listening. Thank you.